Minsan, ang kakulangan ng pera na gagastusin sa employment requirements ang nagiging hadlang para makapagsimulang magtrabaho. Kaya naman, noong naisabatas ang Republic Act 11261 o ang First-Time Jobseekers Assistance Act noong 2019, malaking tulong daw ito sa first-time job seekers dahil naging libre ang government fees and charges para sa mahalagang pre-employment requirements. Ayon sa Department of Labor and Employment, mahigit 1 milyong first-time job seekers taon-taon ang natutulungan ng batas na ito. Ngayon sa Batas et al., alamin natin ang limitasyon ng batas at tungkulin ng iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno na nagpapatupad nito. Isang araw na naman na puno ng aral tungkol sa batas. Ako po si Mencho Macapagal. At para pag-usapan ang First-Time Job Seekers Assistance Act, makakasama natin si Attorney Francesco Britannico. Siya ang founder at head lawyer ng FCB Law Office. Magandang araw sa iyo, Attorney, and welcome to the program. Napakaganda nga ng layunin, Attorney, ng RA 11261 para sa mga unang beses pa lang na naghahanap ng trabaho. Ano pa ba ang ibang purpose ng batas na ito?
Well, yung purpose nito talaga is to help people get their employment more so that makakuha sila ng dokumento nila, ng libre, na walang paggastos dun sa wala pang trabaho.
Mm-hmm. And what was the ultimate goal of this? Like, what was the benefit of having people, of waiving all of those pre-employment costs?
Well, the intent really is so that the persons who don't have a source of income yet, they don't have to spend so that they can join the workforce. Mm-hmm. So the government is willing to give up this revenue para dun sa mga documents na ito para makatulungan yung mga tao that the requirements mabibigay nila at sila ay makapag-apply sila sa employment.
And become productive members of society in the process as well, no? Ano po ba yung proof na dapat ay dala nila?
The primary proof is the barangay certificate that they submit to these government offices which they can get the documents from. Mm-hmm. Yung barangay certificate naman na ito ay kinukuha nila, of course, sa barangay that they come from. Mm-hmm. There are qualifications for the people who are actually allowed to apply for these barangay certificates. Under the law, yung 11261, sila dapat ay Filipino citizen na first-time job seeker who are residents of the barangay for at least 6 months. Ano
yung mga requirements naman na hinihingi dun sa barangay bago sila bigyan nitong certification?
Yung primary document na kukunin sa kanila is an oath of undertaking.
Okay.
That they are actually, they're informed about the contents of the law, that they are swearing that they are a first-time job seeker, that they are a resident of this barangay, that they are not excluded from getting these benefits under 11261.
Mm-hmm. Dapat ba ay college graduate ang isang kumukuha nitong pribilehyo na ito?
Actually, the law does not specify. Nakalagay dito is Filipino citizen.
Okay.
So, pwedeng college graduate, pwedeng out-of-school youth, and pwedeng student na nag-aaral pa, and naghahanap na ng trabaho.
Okay. Ano yung mga pre-employment requirements na libre para sa first-time job seekers under this act?
Well, there's a number of them. One of them is the police clearance, the NBI clearance, the PSA documents, like the marriage certificate, the birth certificate, the medical certificate that you can get from a public hospital or public medical institution. But this does exclude yung costs for the tests and the laboratory procedures that you do to get the certificate. Yung educational records mo from the public or state schools and universities, like your transcript of records, your certificate of graduation, and then the other accreditations that you get from these schools. The law also goes on to mention others that you might be required by your private employer to submit.
So basically, it's all the documentation fees.
Well, you're exempted from paying for the documentation fees to get these particular documents that are listed in the law.
Okay. So, ibig sabihin ba, regardless kung sila ay sa private o government employment mag-a-apply, lahat ng nabanggit mo ay dapat libre?
Libre sila, provided that the office that you're getting these documents from are actually public institutions, public offices.
Okay. Kasi sinabi mo kanina, attorney, no, na kailangan kumuha ng parang certification dun sa barangay. Paano kung nakakuha sila 2 beses? Maybe from a different barangay or, there was some sort of hocus-pocus there. At napatunayan na 2 beses sila nag-avail nitong Jobseekers, First-Time Jobseekers Act benefits.
Well, first of all, yes, you're only allowed to avail of this benefit once. And the certificate that's issued to you is only valid for 1 year.
Okay.
If you are to avail of it twice, you're basically committing falsification dahil kasama sa oath of undertaking that you say that you're only getting this once. And you can be subject to the penalties for falsification under the law dahil nga merong oath of undertaking.
Usually, ano yung mga penalties under that particular law?
Well, it's treated as falsification under the revised penal code. So depending on the involvement of the person, it can range from a penalty of 6 months to 6 years to up to 12 years if there's a public officer involved.
Okay. So I was just about to ask, I mean, like if the barangay that issued those certifications is also found liable, ano yung magiging parusa din sa kanila? Or what are they supposed to do to safeguard na para hindi mangyari yung ganung klaseng scenario?
Well, all right. The officer will himself also be administratively liable under 11261. And also, yun nga, he can be liable under falsification under the revised penal code. Now, to prevent things like that from happening, the government does keep track of who avails of this law. And they've developed doon sa law and implementing rules since infrastructure on how to track and how to report who is actually applied for and who's been issued certificates and documents under these rules.
Alright, kung may libreng proseso ng pre-employment requirements, ano naman kaya ang hindi covered ng batas na ito? Pag-usapan natin sa pagbabalik ng Batas et al. Dito lang sa CNN Philippines. Kayo ay nanonood pa rin ng Batas et al. Dito sa CNN Philippines. First-time Jobseekers Assistance Act pa rin ang topic natin. Kasama si Attorney Francesco Britannico ng FCB Law Office. So Attorney, para maging fair nga sa ibang naghahanap ng trabaho at maiwasan na rin ang penalties, you mentioned earlier na yung proper accounting is very important, right? And that there's also like a database already to keep track of yung mga nabigyan na nitong assistance na ito. Sino ang namamahala nito?
Well, the database is under development.
Okay.
The reporting is done through the barangay, first of all. They keep track of who goes to them for barangay certificates. And then they make monthly reports of this doon sa PESO, yung Public Employment Service Office, doon sa local government, sa munisipyo, sa City Hall. Every month they send the report, and then the report from the PESO offices are sent on to the DOLE. Yung DOLE also receives the reports from the various government agencies who actually issue these documents for employment, like the NBI clearances, the police clearances, the PSA, and the rest. They submit also to the DOLE a monthly report, and the DOLE consolidates these reports that it received and then forwards them to the DICT, yung Department of Information, Communication and Technology, para for the DICT to maintain a database that's going to keep track of who has availed of it and which offices have actually issued these documents in compliance with 11261.
It sounds like a very long chain of command. Pero ultimately, yung barangay is the one that will be held liable if ever there's like a duplication? Or meron pang ibang mga agencies that will be held accountable as well?
Well, each agency is accountable in its way, so that if an agency, for example, refuses to issue somebody who's allowed to receive these benefits under the law, a complaint can be made to the head of the agency to be granted these privileges.
Okay. So ano naman ang limitasyon ng batas na ito? ano yung mga hindi covered? Kasi kanina we touched a little bit on it. You said yung mga fees for the medical procedures, for the medical clearance, hindi kasama dito. What else is not covered? And what are the other limitations?
Well, people who have, first of all, they've already availed of it, hindi na sila pwede kumuha ulit. Yung people who have availed of a similar program of the government under other laws also would be excluded. But with respect to specific offices and departments, yung license mo from the PRC, yung license from the driver's license from the LTO, these are not covered by the law. And also the passport authentication and apostille from the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier na valid for 1 year itong assistance na ito or all of the documentation that was given to you. What if in the period of that 1 year, wala kang nakuhang trabaho? Can you avail again? Is that an exemption under the law or talagang hindi na pwede?
Well, the idea is that in the meantime, you actually did obtain the documents.
Okay.
So having obtained the documents, you should be able to use them for applications for employment. So you should be fine, I think, for an employee.
All right. Ano naman ang role ng government agencies katulad ng Public Employment Service Office at ng Department of Labor para matulungan ang mga aplikante sa kanilang pre-employment requirements? Attorney.
Well, as we mentioned about the Public Employment Service Office, ang function nila is to help the people, first of all, to find jobs. Actually, the function of the office is to link them, the employers to potential employees and vice versa. And also to disseminate information. And since they are the ones who receive the certifications from the barangay, they keep track of what are the people who were granted these certificates, and so that they can upload this into the record system. That's maintained by the DICT ultimately.
Sagutin natin ang ilan pang tanong tungkol sa First-Time Jobseekers Assistance Act sa pagbabalik ng Batas et al. Dito lang sa CNN Philippines. Kami ay nagbabalik dito sa Batas et al. Sagutin na natin ang ilan pang tanong ng ating mga kababayan tungkol sa libreng pagproseso ng pre-employment requirements.
Libre rin ba ang medical exam? Kung sa private hospital ka magpapatest?
No, this is not covered by the law because the law has to do with public hospitals and public institutions and offices essentially. So even in the case, of course, of public hospitals, we said that yung pagtetest mismo is yung procedures na yun ay hindi libre. Yung certificate that will be issued out of it, yun ang libre. But not the laboratory test or the medical procedures.
Okay. Narito ang isa pang tanong.
Pwede pa bang mag-avail kung hindi natanggap sa unang trabaho at kailangan na kumuha ulit ng pre-employment requirement?
You can only avail of this law once. That's really the limitation of it. So after you apply for the barangay certificate and you're issued this, it's available. It's valid for 1 year. You have that amount of time to go to the different government agencies and apply for the documents that you need from them for your employment.
Okay. But we talked about this a little bit earlier na, no? Na for example, if medyo after 1 year hindi ka talaga nakahanap ng trabaho and all of that, kasi can you still avail of like certain documentations? Like for example, the NBI clearance kasi that has like a time period validity lang din.
Yes.
Is that exempted under this rule or talagang hindi?
It's really fairly comprehensive that the exemption from these costs is from 1 year from the date of the barangay certification. So especially with NBI certificates, of course, if you get an NBI clearance, it says that there is no case that's filed against you or pending against you for a period at this moment. But yes, that's a time-sensitive thing in that it speaks for this moment in time. Pero later on in the future, it might not give an accurate picture of what actually, whether itong person na to, may kaso ba siya sa kanya or wala.
Okay, so yung mga ganon, kailangan ikaw na mismo ang gumastos kapag napasuna yung iyong assistance from
Yes.
this act.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Narito ang isa pang tanong.
Paano kung online transaction ang ginagawang request katulad ng birth certificate? Refundable ba ito?
Birth certificates and marriage certificates are covered by the law. However, the portal of the PSA for now does not have a provision for submitting a barangay certificate that will allow you to be exempted from
The fees.
the fees. Yes. So what you can do is you book yourself an appointment with the PSA to go there and apply for the birth certificate or the marriage certificate so that it will be free. But you cannot be refunded costs that you already did for an online order, particularly since, of course, yung costs ng pag-order sa portal online are not just for the document themselves, but also for the courier fees and things like that. So hindi siya ma-refund. Particularly also because you can only avail of the exemptions if you present your barangay certificate.
Okay.
So if you want to do that, you should go to the PSA office itself.
So in-person application ang kailangan gawin, hindi
At least
pwede
for now.
online.
Yes, at least for now. At least until ma-modify somehow. If they do that, yung PSA surveillance na website.
Alright. May limitasyon ba sa bilang ng pwedeng mag-avail kung same family lang? So if, for example, you're all from the same barangay, and you all apply, there's 5 of you in the family, you all decide to apply for the First-Time Jobseekers Act assistance. Is that allowed?
Yes. The only limitation really is that the applicant, the first-time job seeker, must be a first-time job seeker, a Filipino and a resident of that barangay. Having fulfilled those requirements, pwede siya mabigyan ng certificate ng barangay and then therefore avail of the 11261 law.
All right. And, there are so many people who have already been helped by this law. What other message do you have tungkol sa kahalagahan ng batas na ito?
I think this law was very forward-thinking in that the government sees that foregoing these fees, the revenue from having these documents issued to applicants for employment, it's going to redound to the benefit of the government and the economy generally. Because they will be allowed to enter the workforce and contribute to the entire country.
To the ecosystem, the job ecosystem. All right. Maraming salamat sa iyong oras, Attorney Francesco Britannico, founder at head lawyer ng FCB Law Office. At maraming salamat din sa walang sawang pagsuporta sa Batas et al. Ako po si Menchu Macapagal. Magkita-kita tayo sa susunod na linggo dito lang sa CNN Philippines.